and welcome back to the Hearthstone Global Games. Next up, it's going to be Austria versus Ukraine. Now, I said to you this morning, this is one of the games I'm looking forward to the most today.
It's hard not to look forward to any games with Ukraine in them. Ukraine, when we were kind of all evaluating the groups coming into this, Ukraine just stands alone as not just being one of the good teams or the really good teams, it's the team that has Kolento on it. Right. That's how good it is.
Now, I kind of like to compare Russia to Ukraine. I believe that they're both just these strong teams, really intimidating. And the reason I've been looking forward to this game so much has actually been because of Austria. I was lucky enough to be casting with Sotul, the game where Austria beat Russia.
Yeah.
And just the emotion and the feeling of Team Austria when they'd won that final game, them celebrating, it really was a sight to behold. And I'm expecting a similar performance now.
I was going to say, can they do the same thing against Ukraine? We see there the lineups. Austria represented by Game King, Wife Coach, Zygentyg, and Johnny Stone. Ukraine represented, look at this list, Nyria, Dr. Hippie, Kolento, and Nick Chipper. So, I think Ukraine and China certainly boast two of the most impressive rosters just in terms of overall tournament experience.
Just look at 2017 Hearthstone Championship Tour performances.
Yeah.
Now, Rio was just at the Bahamas, and now he's going to Shanghai. Kolento also going to be going to Shanghai.
Nyria is just basically using Hearthstone as a vacation service at this point. Like, he's like, I'll come play a tournament. I guess just go hang out in the Bahamas and then China. So he's cold-blooded.
That's Italy. We are going to be going to Italy a little bit later, but
no, it's okay. You know, you're an Italian caster, so it's important we represent that. There was a little gondola I think I saw in there. I've actually never been to Italy, so
I've been a few times. It's nice. Yeah. Nice. Venice gondolas, yeah, very good.
I'm hoping to go someday, but yeah.
Anyway, Austria and Ukraine.
Yeah. The list for Ukraine is really just truly impressive. And you know, there was a while coming into the Hearthstone Championship Tour at the beginning of last year where everyone was kind of finding out their footing, and we were really waiting to see like what the powerhouse countries were going to be. And then Ukraine just produced prodigy after prodigy after prodigy. And they are, frankly, in my estimation, one of, if not the best, most powerful Hearthstone countries in the world.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm surprised, thinking about it, that none of us have kind of picked Ukraine as our caster pick.
It seems unfair. I'm going to go with Canada. That seems like a sporting pick, right?
Yeah. I've got to be honest. Like, Sotul got his pick first. I was going to go with Russia, but he got there before me, and I'm glad I didn't. I'm more than happy with this.
Mean-spirited.
Right. Well, we are going to have a listen to what Game King had to say about the Hearthstone Global Games.
Hi, I'm Game King, and I'm playing for Team Austria in the Hearthstone Global Games. The Hearthstone scene in Austria, there are like not that many players, but some players, and they are really good. A lot of tournaments happening in Vienna. Parts of Austria, there are like not that many Hearthstone stuff happening. But in Vienna, like there are like a lot of Tavern Hero tournaments, Barstone events. All in all, I think the Hearthstone scene in Austria is like small, but good.
Game King with a celebratory fist pump there, going to take Game 3 for Team Austria.
I'm from Lower Austria. I'm 19 years old, and yeah, I hit like top 100 legend 18 times, and always trying to do the best out of all situations, trying to win as many tournaments, cups as possible.
And those two Savage Roars are going to end this game right here, right now for Austria, and they're going to get a clean 1-0.
Zygentyg is like the unknowns player. He overviews the lineups and then says maybe, oh, there's one card missing or another. And he hits legend every season, I think, and just a good player.
Let's go, Austria, come on!
Jonathan streams like Hearthstone for some 100 viewers, always hits legend as well. Like, he just barely missed out the Wild tournament, he finished like 80 or so. Wife Coach, yeah, she like plays all the games like a life coach plays, and life coach plays with her, and they train together, so Wife Coach is good as well. When we beat Russia, and we beat the Pirate Warrior, and then like we celebrated all around, and yeah, we in our mind there was like, oh, we can maybe come back and win this, and then win the next, and then we have qualified for the stage 2 of the event. For sure, we will make it for to stage 3. The hard thing will be the stage 3 to the offline finals. It's like single elimination, so yeah, I think we'll make it.
A lot of confidence there from Game King, and very well deserved. They've gotten this far, they've beaten Russia, Ukraine is next.
Yeah, I talked to him. He's a man of few words, but he's very sincere on the point that he absolutely believes they're going to make it to stage 3, that they can win, and getting a big win against a team like Russia will absolutely do that for you. He, unfortunately, I don't think will be joining the team. He was actually participating in DreamHack Summer, so there's a situation where he might have to be on a plane during this.
But he said to me that if he's not on the plane, he will be on Skype. So even though he's not playing, he's going to do his very best to be here supporting his team.
But we see Zygentag represented twice.
But first up, it's going to be Wife Coach versus Dr. Hippie. And look at that, 2 Warlocks.
So it's going to be Paladin versus Warrior.
And Wife Coach not with Warrior. I think this is the first time Wife Coach is going to be not playing Warrior in the Hearthstone Global Games.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was looking over the stats of kind of, like I mentioned earlier, who was playing what. Warrior is the class that Austria use most. They use it every single week, all 5 times in stage 1. Interestingly enough, they never played Hunter, which offends me. But, you know, being close to Life Coach, I understand that. Life Coach isn't a Hunter guy either.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
We've got Warlock picked over Warrior by Dr. Hippie. What is going on, Rob?
Dr. Hippie is a madman is what's going on. I'm extremely curious. Now, at the beginning of Journey to Un'Goro, beginning of the Year of the Mammoth, I played a fair bit of Zoo because I thought, okay, 4/4 that can adapt twice if you sacrifice a token just naturally seems really
like
powerful.
A great deck, didn't it?
Right. It seems like there's some obvious power to it, but it never really panned out. There's just other decks that do that style of play better, frankly. And Handlock, by virtue of losing out Reno, it dies. It's what it does.
There are so many tools in the Warlock deck that take away your life.
Yeah.
But because there's no Reno, there's no efficient way of putting the life back.
Yeah.
And that's one of the problems that Warlock as a class has with them. Like, yeah, they got Blood Bloom, which is an incredible card. You can get an early Doom, you get all this tempo, but then you're almost dead. And that's one of the problems with the card.
Yeah, there's no antique heal bot. I actually saw in the Wild tournament, I was like, okay, well, what makes this really good aside from just Reno? And it's heal bot. You have access to tools that just allow you to manipulate your health with a little more fearlessly.
Right.
And those tools currently do not exist. So they also lost out on, in rotations prior, things like Sludge Belcher.
Yeah.
That, did a good job of protecting you while you're trying to get to your late game.
Warlock just need one more expansion, just to give it some healing or give it something that allows these, you don't...
Warlock has been good since, the very beginning of Hearthstone. I'm kind of enjoying them right now, just being the class on the bench.
I'm enjoying Zoo not being the archetype that's being played consistently, if I'm honest. But that's not a Zoo deck. That is Lord Draxus. Look at Dr. Hippie giving us a cheeky grin there.
Dr. Hippie, we met him last year on the Hearthstone Championship Tour early on. He finished 2nd place, and he came back and ended up winning, finishing 1st and going to the World Championship. But he is one of the, I don't want to say trolliest, but kind of is.
Right.
Yeah, he delights in mischief, we'll say. I think that's the most PG way I can put it.
And he's not, he is someone to be afraid of. As you say, 2nd place Hearthstone World Championship 2016. That is an accolade.
Okay, well, we can tell you all day about Quest Rogue versus Aggro Druid and Jade Druid versus Control Paladin, but Dan, what's your assessment of mid-range Paladin, we'll just say it's that, versus Handlock and Journey to Un'Goro?
Well, firstly, it does look like mid-range Paladin because you can see there's a 1-mana Murloc and there's a Stonehill Defender, so it's not going to be the super aggressive build, but that looks right. I would imagine that the Paladin's got a good shot because we can see a quality consecration there. If the Handlock, I guess, puts up maybe a giant with a face of Shambler, you quality consecration it, later on you can keep a Tareem something. I think the Paladin's got a good shot. But then I'd probably say that with most archetypes against this deck. I would just look at this Warlock and say, it probably loses to almost everything. Obviously it doesn't. There's a reason Dr. Hippie's bringing it. I'm just saying I have no idea what to expect.
Well, okay, let's look at how traditionally Handlock has been successful.
Okay.
Handlock has been successful by hitting critical mass where they play double Molten Giant. Yep. They play the Molten Giants early, they play the Twilight Drake. That said, Molten Giant now a completely different animal.
Yeah.
It used to be back in the day that if you were at 10 health, it was free. Now it requires you to be at 5 health. I could see a win condition with Jiraxis, certainly just overwhelming the board, baiting out the 2 consecrations. Paladin doesn't, especially this style of Paladin, doesn't have a lot of burst damage.
Yeah.
It's basically just true Silver Champion and Equality. The rest of it has to be done on the board, or not Equality, sorry, Consecration.
Yeah, they're going to try and get onto the board as early as they possibly can, but cards like Hellfire and Abyssal Enforcer are going to shut Wife Coach down. I wonder if there's going to be a potential Kazakus in Dr. Hippie's deck? Or is that just too greedy, just running a deck of 1-ofs for that one card?
I feel like it's actually too greedy.
Yeah.
One thing that's worth noting is in the beginning of this expansion, we were seeing people experiment with Humongous Razor Leaf and Faceless Shambler. So obviously, Faceless Shambler on a Humongous Razor Leaf just represents a giant wall that can actually attack.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, so I think with the Faceless Shambler, I wouldn't be surprised to see Humongous Razor Leaf in here as well. Obviously, it has other big targets it can hit. Even the Abyssal Enforcer, which is a 6/6, is still a reasonable target for it.
I mean, I remember before Ungoro came out, one of the archetypes that people were very excited about was actually Handlock's return, because people looked at Humongous Razor Leaf and thought, yeah, great, that with the Ancient Watcher, etc., we can actually make this deck work again. Turned out that, yeah, it did make a deck work, but that was a priest deck. Handlock didn't actually benefit, not yet, unless Dr. Hippie is bringing it back right now.
Oh, interesting decision there from Dr. Hippie, choosing not to tap. Generally, as the Handlock, you just want to keep digging into your deck further and further. Felt that he wanted to go ahead and have something on the board. The heal was a very minor point. He was at, I believe, 29, so it wasn't necessarily like anything super crazy. But he does have the 3/3 on the board now, which can battle.
Ooh, not the best taunts in the world. Again, Grimeshoot Protector's reasonable. Stubborn Gastropod looks great, but you very rarely actually get to pull it off in a way that is meaningful.
Yeah, this is a situation where Wife Coach has to sit there and really actively consider everything as it's happening, because in a lot of matchups, you kind of get muscle memory, where you're like, all right, this happens, and then I do this, and then this happens, and I do this. But for most people, it's been a while since they've actually had to deal with Handlock.
Yeah, you're right. Playing around Dr. Hippie's stuff is going to be very difficult, because to a large extent, she's not going to know what it is she's meant to be playing around. So remembering it is one thing, and having the muscle memory is one thing, but just not knowing is another thing entirely.
One thing that definitely has made Handlock's life even harder, obviously the loss of Reno, a big factor, the inability to use cards like in TKillbot, at least in Standard. It is essentially a control deck.
Yeah.
And a lot of other decks do what it does, but a lot better. You know, Jirax is just pumping out 6/6. What if I sold you a class that had mana ramp, a bunch of armor gain, and also just made things that are bigger than 6/6s forever?
Forever, yeah. Exactly. Just want to point out, Dr. Hippie's picked up a second Faceless Shambler. So definitely no Kazakus in this deck. That was a wild idea.
I mean, it could just technically be that he's running 2 Faceless Shamblers and then Kazakus.
Oh, not Reno.
It's technically possible.
You've been casting too much Wild, Rob.
Wild's so much fun. Ship's Cannon is such a great card.
Great? Is that the word you want to use? Okay, we'll use great. Hard turn for Dr. Hippie, though. None of the minions that he can play from his hand do anything, so tapping seems like a pretty good way to start. At least the Trailblazer. There's a lot of value in this deck.
And Dr. Hippie's getting value right now. Just, you know, he's using the 3/3, got through the 1/4.
Yep.
It's likely that 3/1 is now going to command a trade from another minion, unless Wife Coach wants to invest a Consecration.
I guess as a Warlock as well, at least the Trailblazer, you're going to get to your pack more quickly than in a lot of the other decks. Not quite Priest, because with Priest you can Shadow Visions it, sure, but just tapping into it seems strong too. Do you think that the Handlock's got a good shot here then?
No. If I'm being honest, no.
Okay. Because you asked me earlier, and I said, yeah, I think the Paladin's...
Well, I was setting you up to fail, Daniel. I did not want to answer that question.
Okay.
I
wanted to get your opinion on it, because I'm so unsure about this.
Story time, chat. But back in the day, before GVG ever came out and Paladin became kind of the mid-range aggro class, I played a lot of Control Paladin. It was the first deck I ever had gold, and I ran into Handlock all the time, as you did back in the day. And the big thing you had to consider when you were playing the Paladin deck was, okay, I have 2 equalities. I can reset the board twice, and I need to put myself in a position to win beyond that. But the dynamic has just changed so much, and the Paladin is just capable of making these really frustrating boards to deal with. And the Warlock, I mean, I don't know exactly what this list is. That's another thing. Is it double twisting Nether? I would assume Shadow Flame's in here somewhere. Hellfire feels like it absolutely has to be in there. It's just, if you don't get the removal, you just get run over, and then a lot of the things that are in your hand are clunky endgame cards, or they're kind of mid-range things that you can do that and then not really do anything else. I absolutely feel like this style of Paladin is, you know, it has Terum as well to kind of equalize Giants boards.
Cool story, Bob.
Yeah, you know what? I warned you, buckle in. I got stories to tell. The tavern is full of tales, Daniel Falcone.
When did you used to play a lot of Paladin? Like back in the GVG days, are we talking?
Oh, no. I'm saying pre-GVG. Back when it didn't have anything to do. You could actually just take a nap before turn 4.
There you go. First Mountain Giant going to come down. And the Paladin does have more tools, yeah, but it looks like Dr. Hippie has more big stuff in this deck too. Like several Giants, Abyssal Enforcer, several Faceless Shamblers. Like, he's going to be able to try and bait out the Equality Consecration.
I want to see Tarim right here, and he's just going to rip it, it looks like.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, Wife Coach is just going to rip it.
But, yeah, it's just, it looks so unlikely that Dr. Hippie can do anything. Abyssal Enforcer will come down next turn and deal with almost everything. And that's quite a nice swing.
Well, it's going to do that, but it's also going to put, yeah. Okay, so here's basically the decision point is, you know, do you think Shadow Flame is like a big deal?
No.
So, I mean, if the Abyssal comes down, it's going to clear the Molten Giant anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, just goes and chooses to play around it. That's fine.
Doomsayer, not going to do anything at the moment.
So if you Abyssal, you go down to 7. Your opponent has 3 damage on board. Now, double Consecration is not an option because it's going to be on 7 mana, but things are just, you don't have a Reno. There is no reset.
You have a Siphon Soul. There's your reset.
There you go.
It gets you the 3 health you take from the Abyssal Enforcer back.
That's like the equivalent of like having pneumonia, and you're like, oh, I'm going to fix this with some Tylenol PM. Like, I got this.
Oh, boy.
They don't quite line up. All right, Spike Ridge Steed.
Okay. Well, Wife Coach just needs to play the Spike Ridge Steed, and the next turn wins the game
double
almost every time with double Consecration. Even 1 probably does the trick. Playing the Spike Ridge Steed prevents Dr. Hippie from tapping this turn as well. He's
Dr. Hippie even looks like a man who knows he's queued up Handlock in 2017. It's like, come on, Dr. Hippie. It's stage 2 of the Hearthstone Global Games. Head in the game.
Interesting choice.
Yeah. Well, I really, if Ukraine wins, I really hope we get Dr. Hippie. I'm curious what he was targeting, jokes aside.
Right.
Obviously, we're memeing around a little bit.
This does save Dr. Hippie temporarily, though.
Yeah.
Wife Coach is going to be 1 off lethal with the double Consecration. I don't know how much more healing Dr. Hippie can possibly have in this deck. Adraxus.
Well, if Dr. Hippie gets up big taunts, it may not matter. Oh.
Oh, well, there you go. The game's over. I was thinking Dr. Hippie would probably play Draxus next turn. And then, yeah, just Hero Power, Faceless Shambler, put himself in a pretty good position.
Again, the Paladin generally has to win it from the board, but did manage to get that Rallying Blade.
Wife Coach scared me for a second there. She was taking her time on that, but we got there looking happy as usual. Wife Coach taking away a lot of
Dr. Hippie just shrugs. He's like, counting to 5, huh?
Yep. Yeah. There you go. It happens. Dr. Hippie took a risk. It didn't pay off. And, yeah, Austria feeling good about the start of the series. I'm feeling good as well. I want to see Austria take this.
It's not every day that your opponent queues up Warlock into your mid-range Paladin, but thanks, you know?
Yeah, she probably, as soon as she saw her opponent's hero portrait, she was probably just confused, concerned.
Well, again, there's an element of surprise potentially that you have to play around. You're not entirely sure what it could be. Maybe that's something that factors in, but one of the factors that has made this mid-range Paladin style so common is just it's snowball potential, right? It just gets out of hand. It leaves small stuff on the board. Tarim comes out like, okay, you played a Mountain Giant. That's really cool. It's a 3/3 now, and I'm just going to push with all these 3/3s. So that matchup kind of went about how I expected it would.
Right. Well, next up, we're going to see Calento on the Priest, another class that we haven't actually seen at all today. Recent dream hacky trends would indicate that Priest isn't a popular class at all at the moment. There was 1 in the top 16 at DreamHack. It's better than the 0 Hunters and the 0 Warlocks, but 1 Priest, and it was a control Priest, like the Mr. Yagu style of Medivh the Guardian and that kind of thing. Silence Priests seem to have just petered out.
There was a point where a lot of the pro players were really high on Silence Priest. Like, I remember Zalay was like tweeting about how it was just such a good deck. And I think Jackie Chan had like an 84% win rate in a sample size with Miracle Priest. So like every so often a pro player has like a stretch of like 30 really good games with Priest. They're like, Priest is back. It's kind of like fighting to be on the inside with some of those other powerhouse classes. But right now it's just kind of firmly on the outskirts.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. Like I remember back when a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, Tyler was just, and Fino were just like grinding the deck all day. Like, yep, it's just the best deck right now.
Right.
Let's get High Legend with it. But more recently, Tyler has moved to this Control Priest. He took Mr. Yogurt's build, changed it a little bit, threw a Mind Control in because it combos so well with Medivh, and also obviously Shadow Visions. I'm a big fan of the Control Priest. I've always been a big fan of Control-y Priests. I played a lot of Dragon Priest last month, and I've played a lot of the Control Priest this month. I think it's just a strong deck at the moment.
I played a lot of Kazakus Priest like 2 months ago. I think when Journey to Un'Goro first came out, and obviously when the meta is still being figured out, it's a lot more forgiving to play something like that. But yeah, the point you brought up about Medivh into Mind Control, Dragon Fire Potion is also just really good with that. Free from Amber. There's a lot of late game potential if you choose to run that kind of priest. I'm very curious.
And you throw Elise in as well, right? So that's even more late game value.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what Kolento cooks up, though. Kolento, certainly one of those players who has his own way of doing things, and to be fair, it's an extremely successful way. I mean, Kolento basically took a year off from like competing in a lot of things there, and then he just descended from the mountain, as Kolento does, and just began like basically beating people up. He's like, I'm going to play some Hearthstone now, and you're all going to lose.
Was he up on the mountain with Casey?
I guess that's where all the Hearthstone gods live today, just up in like Mount Olympus, just doing whatever. But yeah, he's come back and is just winning things left and right.
Well, Ukraine are going to do things in their own way today, clearly. Dr. Hippie's come in as player number 1 with the handlock. Obviously, his teammates agreed that that was the way to go. So I'm very excited to see what the team have decided that Kolento should bring for the priest.
What I find most interesting is Dr. Hippie had Warlock and Warrior, chose not to play the Warrior. Kolento now had Rogue and Priest, and chose to play the Priest. So these are players who are dodging out on the power classes to play something else. Now, I want to say Austria had options there. It was Shaman and Hunter. So maybe you don't feel like you want to queue the Rogue into the Shaman and Hunter.
I've glanced forward, by the way. Nick Chipper and Naria, their pairings are Paladin, Shaman, Druid, Mage. So there aren't actually any underplayed decks in those pairings. Yeah. So we can expect more normality later.
Well, I actually think the Priest, if you expect that there's going to be Shaman and Hunter, I think the Priest just lines up better than the Rogue because you have Potion of Madness, you have Shadow Word Pain.
You're right.
So it's not... Dr. Hippie did some cool Dr. Hippie stuff, but I think Kolento is actually just making what probably feels like the more correct decision.
I'm getting lost in the meme train here.
Don't do it. Come back to me.
You're right. It does actually make sense when you look at how the classes line up against the Hunter. Yeah. Potion of Madness just wins the game. You take a Grandmother. You take a Rat Pack.
You just take a random Grandmother. Yeah. Falcone, you can't say that stuff. Then. Yeah.
Back to the mental asylum with me.
Yeah, but it definitely lines up better. So I think as much as we were having a fun time with Dr. Hippie, and again, I really want to ask him what that was about.
Yeah.
Why you would just choose not to play Warrior. Because I don't remember anything the wife coach was bringing that was like, well, we don't play the Warrior, especially over the Warlock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Zigantide going to be up next for Austria, and as Game King said in the little interview that we saw earlier, Zigantide is the guy that kind of checks the lineup, sees if there's anything missing in the decks, if anything that he'd want to add. I just think it's interesting to see how these roles are distributed because we've seen from other teams, like some people have said, yeah, this person's in charge of deciding the class pairings, this person's in charge of deciding which exact builds we use, and this person is in charge when we're actually playing the games. And Zigantide is the guy that decides or checks the lineups.
It seems in general, like in this type of format, having very distinguished roles is something that works out very well for you because then you don't necessarily have competing egos. People who are like, well, I'm the deck builder. No, I'm the deck builder. Like having someone who is like, your job to check the primordial glyphs in game, your job to just double check the deck list. Like making sure everybody has assigned roles is actually just a way to be extremely successful.
And we talked about that a lot in the first few weeks of the Hearthstone Global Games where we were saying, yeah, it's probably one person's job on each team just to track the opponent's hand. See, that one, as you said, that one came from primordial glyph. That one has been in the hand the whole time. That one was only picked up recently. Though we asked in interviews if that was the case, and the players said to us, I think, oh, no, we haven't actually thought about that. That's a really good idea. So maybe now, as we get into stage 2 of the competition, maybe that's something that the players are doing more.
Yeah, and like I said, I think in stage 1, a lot of the teams were kind of coming in like, okay, well, we don't necessarily have that many expectations on us. We'll just kind of see how things go. But I would assume for some of the teams that made it to stage 2, it's gotten a little bit more real. And there is a need to kind of structure out how everyone's investing their time and energy. Even if it's like someone's doing the deck list, someone's tracking the primordial glyphs, someone's getting pizza. Like that's their job.
Well, we haven't had any pizza yet. Still, just another reminder. My stomach keeps reminding me that I haven't had any pizza.
Yeah, hopefully Chad can't hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
But yeah, I would expect Kolento, based on what he picked there, that he's probably bringing probably something more oriented around either Silence Priest or Miracle Priest because of the cards we mentioned. very powerful against the aggressive decks, and basically can just lock them out. And then you can set about whatever your win condition, whether it's building a humongous Razor Leaf Wall into some minion that's 20/20 through Divine Spirit Interfire, or if you're going for just that miracle output.
Yeah. The priest that we saw in at DreamHack was very anti-aggro. I don't believe it actually won any games in top 16. I think he was just like kind of in and then out straight away. But obviously he got 2 top 16 with the deck, and it ran Shadow Word Horror in it. Like it was really anti-aggro.
Well, if you're targeting Shaman, Shadow Word Horror is really good.
Right.
A lot of the minions that you're seeing have 2 or less attacks. Some are just totems that have 0, but yeah, you're getting rid of totems, and maybe that doesn't feel the best from like a value standpoint, but it is one of those situations where you just have to respect the bloodlust, and you have to get things off the board.
And Shaman has kind of over the last maybe month or so gone pretty much from 0 to hero. It was looked at as like class number 7, maybe class number 8 in kind of tier list, but it's just with Evolved Shaman being discovered, it shot up. I'm waiting to see what the next deck that's discovered is, because I think there's still time before the next expansion.
I've been thinking about that a lot lately, because the last deck we've had that really had a breakout, standout performance was the Burn Mage. Right. And now I think things are kind of definitely crystallizing a bit more. So I am curious to see if there's enough time. I think Journey to Un'Goro has had a lot for deck builders to solve, but I definitely think we're getting to the point now where things are mostly settling. It's
certainly been my favorite expansion. It's been the one that's kind of lasted such a long time in terms of confusion and, well, just the meta not being settled yet. In the past, I think it's only taken 2.5 months, and we've kind of been there, but things are still changing a little bit. Not as much anymore, but things are still not... Nobody's bored of the game now. Like, the expansion's just... I'm not bored. Are you bored?
I'm not bored. I'm just saying that's a bold statement.
Okay, some people inevitably will be.
Sure.
But I think in terms of compared to the other expansions, it's just been really great. It's really lasted. Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave you high and dry one more time, as Ziegenteig is not connecting or something. We'll find out what's going on, and we'll get back to you very shortly.
We're almost there. Quiet down, everyone. This is not like any of our previous expeditions. This will be far more ambitious. We're stepping into a land of primordial wonder. Infused with astonishing elemental energies. The plant life here holds very unusual properties. So don't touch anything. And while you may be excited to see the local fauna, you might want to make sure they don't see you. Because their powers of adaptation are devastating. Make no mistake, we will be tested at every turn. But if we stay on our guard, we might just survive. Now then, are you ready? Then let's journey into Un'Goro Crater.
It's okay, we're here, we're not going to another break.
Nope.
Just making that clear straight away.
We're here for you, chat.
Yeah, we've got you covered. We're going to fill you in straight away with whatever's going on. As much as we do like debating you and coming back, pretending that we're going to play, and then, yeah. No, we are going to play in just a moment. It's going to be Kalento on the Priest versus Ziegenteig on the Shaman, as originally advertised. And as we've discussed, we're expecting a more Miracle Priest versus Evolved Shaman. Right? Well, there's not even really a question anymore on the Shaman. Well, there was the Elemental Shaman earlier.
Yeah, but again, I think from Singapore like definitely strays away from the rest of the herd in terms of what they're willing to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that said, Kolento doesn't necessarily strike me as someone who is necessarily chained to community sentiment. Kolento just kind of does what Kolento wants.
And gets away with it every time.
Yeah, well, and more than gets away with it, just wins. But, you know, if you watch a stream, Kolento's certainly someone who spends a lot of time trying decks on his own, just building new things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back at the earlier weeks of the Hearthstone Global Games, I think he was one of the first, or maybe the only players that brought the Grime Street buff Paladin with the Elementals in as well, like hand buff Elemental Paladin.
Right.
And I think he won with it. So,
yeah.
So he does his thing and he gets away with it.
Kolento is just really, really, really ridiculously good at the game, which allows you to bring decks that other people go.
Kolento is good at Hearthstone.
Yeah.
In conclusion, can we please start this game now? Because resorting to Kolento is good at Hearthstone. I think we've reached our...
No, this is top-notch casting. We're just saying what people want to hear. Kolento is really good at Hearthstone. But I think we are going to go ahead and hop into this match.
I can see a Lyra.
Yeah, so, okay. Binding Heal in the deck. I want to say I saw Germany play something very similar in the beginning.
Right.
This deck has a lot of healing in it. It is super powerful against Freeze Mage.
Yeah. Or
kind of any deck that's requiring, you know, a static amount of burn to do the job. But yeah, we see the Divine Spirit, Inner Fire's in there somewhere. This definitely strikes me as a Miracle Priest.
Yeah, well, it's definitely at least non-silence Divine Spirit Inner Fire Priest. Non-silence Silence Priest.
Wow, Kolento in the Ben Brode regalia there. Got some flannel ready to become a lumberjack.
There you go.
Yeah.
You could go and join him on the Ungaro set with just grab an axe.
Yep.
I wouldn't want to be near Kolento with an axe. I feel like he'd be very efficient with it.
Sometimes, Daniel, I don't understand how your brain works. All right, there. The opening hand for Kolento, though, pretty solid. I think the only way this really could have been too much better is if the Divine Spirit or one of them was actually just Power Word Shield.
Yep.
Get that board a little stickier. But I like here just jamming out the Northshire Cleric. There's a very high chance that this is actually going to block Austria out of making a play. Yeah, because Austria doesn't want to just give away Northshire Cleric value.
This is a really great snowbally start from the Priest here. Cleric into Radiant Elemental. If there was a Power Word Shield that could come down next turn as well, as you were saying, that would be just an immense start. Austria are going to have to try and get themselves on the board somehow, but I don't know how Zigantag's going to do that. I guess coining out the Primal Fin Totem is okay, but you do then allow Kolento to take a free card draw.
Well, and you have to decide what's more important to you, which is developing the Primal Fin Totem and giving up a card. The other nice thing is that you're forcing the Priest to use its 2 mana, so the Radiant Elemental wouldn't necessarily get developed if it's there.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm not saying it's necessarily the worst play. One point of interaction that I think is interesting in this matchup is you can't just like idly play your Divine Spirit and just buff up a minion because of Devolve. Mm-hmm. Devolve obviously just going to essentially kill off Divine Spirits.
Sort of have to try and wait for lethal, at least in the regular Silence Priest builds, though it looks... Well, I don't think this is going to be Silence Priest. The only card I've seen, though, that indicates that it's not is actually that Binding Heal.
Yeah, the Binding Heal much more indicative of something that is trying to generate cards off of the Lyra, something that is trying to sustain itself versus decks like Burn Mage, Freeze Mage. That's where we've really seen it shine.
Is it possible that Kolento's just put that in as sort of a tech choice, though?
No, it's with Kolento, I would say, yeah, anything is possible there.
Anything is possible.
All right, so the Primal Fin Totem does come down. Austria realizing they can't really afford to wait too long to get on this board. They're just going to go ahead and give up that card. That said, if the Primal Fin Totem is traded into, no damage is taken.
Well, I'm wondering if Wild Pyromancer Divine Spirit is ever a thing to consider there. Not going to go with it, just going to leave the Primal Fin there. Kind of risky, though Flame Tongue Totem's not going to cause too much damage at the moment.
Yeah, there is a question as to how long you can leave the Primal Fin Totem unchecked before it becomes an issue, but Kolento really just, understandably because it's Kolento, really valuing that card draw, wants to get more resources, wants to get deeper into his deck. Now, there was a possibility that he just traded the Radiant Elemental, well, not really traded, but just killed the Primal Fin Totem with the Radiant Elemental and the Northshire Cleric, and then just played down the Acolyte into the 1/1 that was on the board.
Yep.
But Kolento here deciding if he wants to use the one of the Divine Spirits.
Yeah, gonna try and make the most of the Acolyte, play it later, maybe with Wild Pyromancer. Using the Divine Spirit to buff the Northshire Cleric, that's fine, because if it gets devolved, it's not the end of the world, you're not losing too many resources. I'd really like some more hints about what is in this deck, because Lyra, again, it's not telling us anything. This is not information for us.
All right, so Austria could go ahead and clear the Radiant Elemental with the combination of Jade Elemental, Coin, Maelstrom Portal. Start setting up things on the board. Not necessarily super durable things, but they are just getting things on the board, which is obviously extremely important to their win condition. Could even be looking to just try to shoehorn in an early evolve.
Right.
One of the things people who haven't played this deck a lot tend to think is that you have to just play the evolve on the Doppelgangster.
It's very hard to get past that when you've got it in hand as well.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you very, very tempted to hold on to it. Patches, not going to do too much work there, but at least it's 1 extra damage to the face this turn. Ultimately, it is still just a 1-1 though. It's just short work for North Clerical while Pyromancer. If Pyromancer can find a way to come down this turn with Divine Spirit, that would be a pretty big swing for Kalento again. Just buff up that Cleric even more.
It would be, but you're using both of your Divine Spirits at that point.
Yeah.
So if your win condition is Divine Spirit centric,
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's not, because we've now seen Priest of the Feast as well, so I'm past believing this is any sort of Silence Priest. Looks like it is more the Miracle Priest style. And really, if Kalento can just get Lyra to stick, that's a win condition in its own.
sure. And the Shaman could actually have a hard time dealing with it.
Right.
Obviously, there's Devolves, Spell Boosted, Jade Lightning plus chip damage from a 1-1. So there are ways to deal with it, but obviously Lyra sticking would represent a lot of resources coming in for Ukraine.
Besides, you just get an extra Divine Spirit off the Lyra, no worries.
I mean, it happens a fair bit.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There are only so many Priest spells. Divine Spirit is one of them. Again, Powered Shield would be really strong here with Pyromancer. That'd be a lot better than Divine Spirit. Gonna just go with Priest of the Feast. Stick a
just
big
clear
minion
that.
on the board.
Finally clear that Primal Fin Totem, just say enough's enough. I don't need you generating more value. Is leaving his Norshire Cleric up to be killed here.
Which is a shame, because Kalento's hand still looking a little bit shy of resources. But at least if it's taking up all of the damage from the board, then it's not going to the face, it's not going into the Priest of the Feast.
Yeah, it's not building towards that Bloodlust win condition.
What would a Flame Tongue Totem do right now? Flame Tongue Totem would have allowed Zigantag to clear the whole board, I think.
All right, so Thing from Below, Faceless Shambler, and then White Eyes. I like Thing from Below. I think it's a fairly straightforward pick.
Yeah.
You're building for turns to come.
It's frustrating at the moment because they're both 5/5s though.
Yeah.
Like if they were much cheaper now, you could potentially play both of those with the Evolve. Binding Heal not going to do an awful lot. Too expensive to play with Acolyte and Pyromancer, so it's not even going to draw you a card.
Yeah, meanwhile, for Kalento, a couple different ways you can approach this turn. I don't think Lyra seems central to what the deck is trying to do, so I don't think you play Lyra until you have at least 1 or 2 spells to go off with her when she comes down. So, never mind. Just saying like, yep, this is fine. So obviously this plays really heavily into the Jade Lightning, so I don't even know if it's necessarily that heavy into his win condition. If you're just willing to toss down the Lyra, realistically, and get no value on it.
So, okay, but if Jade Lightning were to come down this turn, then Priest of the Feast is being left untouched. Pyromancer, Acolyte, Binding Heal could be a play next turn. I guess Kalento has just decided it's not the end of the world if Lyra gets dealt with, and if it doesn't get dealt with, we can let's go. Divine Spirit, let's go.
Sure. That does not get checked though.
So Divine Spirit. You want to play the Circle of Healing as well, because I think random Priest spell is probably better than Circle of Healing, especially if you can use the Circle of Healing to heal stuff up this turn. Ooh. Free Wisp.
Well, I mean, you can play it now and actually just get a 4-mana minion if you choose.
Yeah.
Or you can just save it for later. You have other things you can be playing right now. Holy Fire is pretty big.
Trade both in. Circle of Healing looks pretty good. Oh my.
Shadow Word Pain, the 1/4.
Yeah, I don't know if that was necessary. I don't know if random Priest spell is better than Shadow Word Pain, and you didn't really need the 1/4 to be dealt with.
No, he's off to the races. He's down to draw some cards, or so rather generate some cards.
Binding Heal, yep, okay. And Free from Amber, why not? An extra sort of win condition.
right, Shadowward Horror, we talked about that being fairly good against Shaman.
Yeah.
Now, Austria can just go ahead and do the Doppelgangster Evolve turn, and I think that's just straight up the best.
But Lyra survived.
But you have no way to deal with the Lyra anyway. I think you feel like you probably have to deal with the Lyra.
It's a disaster.
board.
Like, just shows how good a player Kalento is. He realized that was the turn to take the risk.
Now,
Not a bad evolve there,
I was going to say, if all 3 of these had been Argent Commander,
then Lyra would be down.
you'd have taken Lyra straight to Northrend.
Yeah. But Aya, not bad at all. Like, you are generating Jade Golems in this deck, so that's an extra one. It also buffs up all future ones. Obviously, Moat Lurker is the bad
All right, there's Light Warden. So Light Warden actually does give us a little bit more insight.
It explains the Circle of Healing and Binding Heal as well.
Yeah.
Or helps to explain them. It's not quite Light of Naru, is it?
It is not quite that.
It's not quite that good.
That was a really good spell, actually.
Yeah.
All right, so for Kalento, more opportunity to just draw cards. The Moat Lurker is just a 3/3. Obviously, it
Not going to do anything.
doesn't resummon anything when it dies if it didn't kill anything.
Holy Fire. Going to start with the expensive card. Kalento doesn't actually have any cheap spells to play. Now he does. There's that Powered Shield we've been talking about all game. Actually, very nice pickup there too.
All right, Shadow Vision's extremely powerful in its own right. All right, there's the Inner Fire. These spells have to stop for this turn. Now, I guess my question is, can you expect Lyra to reasonably survive?
Realistically, no. I think you expect Lyra to be destroyed here.
So you're gonna trade into the 2/2.
Even Flame Tongue Totem would do it.
Yeah, Flame Tongue does it. Bloodlust does it.
Lightning, Maelstrom with a spell damage totem.
Wow.
It's going to have to be a spell damage totem. Like, you start by rolling a totem, and then if you don't get spell damage, maybe you have to Bloodlust. But that's such a bad use of the card.
Yeah, it's not even like Savage Roar where, okay, maybe you just get something done off using the face to clear a minion.
Yeah. Is it going to be spell damage? Yes, it is. All right. Okay.
What a god. So this is huge the other way.
Yeah, things looking really not good for Austria here, but stabilized nicely. It clears the whole board. The only problem now is that Kalento's got a handful of stuff, thanks to Lyra.
Yeah, but on the plus side, it's pre-spells.
Yeah, and also Divine Spirit. Both of those are gone. So that Inner Fire that we can see is kind of useless.
All right, quit playing with my heart. Play that Maelstrom portal.
We want to see it.
All right, there we go.
Ah, very nice sequencing there. I was about to bring this up. And rewarded. Is it Emerald Reaver? Is that what that card's called? Increases the cost of all cards in your
I think
hand.
it's Emerald Hive Queen.
Emerald Hive Queen. Emerald Reaver is the one that deals 1 damage to both players' faces, I think.
Well, he's going to get the bad news of Womp Womp, Shadowward Horror. Yeah, I made a joke about the fact it's full of pre-spells, so maybe it's not that bad, but when you're just generating spells as a priest and you don't have to run them, a lot of your spells do a lot of really nasty things to the board, so that's exactly what Shadowward Horror did. Austria was starting to gain a foothold there, and just it went the way of the dinosaurs.
Right. Now, Zigantag was looking okay for a sec, but you're right, the Shadowward Horror really has done some damage, and Kalento just free to continue to dominate this board. I imagine we'll start with the Shadow Visions. There's probably a Shadowward Death somewhere in this deck. Free from Amber not looking horrible this turn either.
Yeah, he's not really pressing anything right now, but he's going to be able to continue just generating things.
What is this deck? Double Light Warden. It is a win condition.
Yeah. I actually feel like the win condition probably is just Divine Spirit Inner Fire.
Sure.
I mean, when I say win condition now, there is something to most decks, which is how you actually plan to close out the game. I bring this up because I have a hard time believing that the deck's win condition for Kalento is just straight up resource generation, right? Like that seems pretty ambitious.
Sure.
Against a lot of decks that you come across. Yeah, that's sometimes how you just beat aggro. But if you run into anything mid-range or control, it doesn't necessarily scream like, well, this is consistent.
Ooh, taking Circular Healing, going to use it with the Pyromancer. He can draw quite a few cards this way, right? Or, well, draw a card and also buff up the Light Warden. We're not playing the Pyromancer here, though. Okay. All right. Enough's enough. So Inner Fire on the Acolyte can take out the Think from below. Nope, gonna just use the Light Warden.
Well, I've given up trying to cast this game. This is Kalento
This
stuff
might take
happening.
a while. This 13-3. It's a 13-3. And there's nothing that Austria can do about it. Okay, all right. Calm down. Calm down. I honestly just thought Zigantag was going to lose to a 13-3 Light Warden there, but no, now it's just a Wisp.
Oh, this game's starting to get real spooky. It's a Mana Wraith.
That was quite the de-evolution.
Yeah.
Mana Wraith, is that going to make a difference? No, not really. Circular Healing turns out it's a pretty strong card when it's paired with Pyromancer and Light Warden. You thought Northshire Cleric was strong.
That's the general theme with a lot of the priest cards is when you throw them all together and you have them all, they do really cool things, but...
Not the best free from Amber Pick, no charges, no Yasiras, no big mighty dragons.
No 12-12, yeah.
Nope, just an 8-8. 8 mana 8-8 or an 8 mana 6-10. You take the 8-8 though, right?
I think I take the 6-10.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I generally, in this situation, like, I don't know, more health just seems strictly better. Like, if there is just a fringe case where double Jade Lightning
Sure.
gets you.
And you've got Inner Fire as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a situation where I think you just take the 8-8, never mind. I don't... Okay.
Thank you, Kalento.
Yeah. You got lucky on this one, Falcone.
Devolve not going to do anything
Nope.
against Mountain Giant. Just remains as an 8-8.
There is no 24 mana minion card, so he
No.
cannot be touched.
Maybe someday. So what does Austria do about this?
I mean...
Hero Power Pass. Okay, well that.
I was going to say, there is a play. I think it's going to work out pretty well here. But that is going to be a victory for Ukraine. I would really like to see that full deck list, to be honest. It seems like the win condition was somewhere around having multiple smaller win conditions, right? Like there was a situation where you could have felt out like, okay, where does the Divine Spirit Inner Fire take us? Where does the Lyra take us? Is Light Warden a win condition? It definitely
was.
It definitely felt like it had a bunch of small win conditions, but yeah, they get the tie in the series now.
Light Warden only didn't win that game because Zigantag picked up the Devolve just at the perfect moment.
Yeah.
If that wasn't picked up, Light Warden was just going to take it away. Crazy. These priest decks are just evolving in some weird ways. But next up, it's going to be Zigantag once again on the Mage versus Nick Chipper on the Paladin. Right, Paladin is a class that we see regularly.
Yeah, Paladin, one of the most popular classes. I think when I was doing the numbers, it was the second or third most seen classes among the top 24.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
It's just so flexible. You can play it so many different ways. We talked earlier, the last year's standing format DreamHack, we've seen Control Paladins with the N'Zoth package be extremely popular. In general, though, you tend to see a lot more front-loaded Murloc decks.
Yep.
The Murloc decks generally have at least the core package,
Yeah.
and then some kind of go lighter into being more aggressive.
I feel as though a week or two ago, Control Paladins started to really be a thing. When we saw Paladins for a while, we actually would have expected Control. But this week, and with DreamHack last weekend, it seems that the mid-range and the aggressive Paladins have made a little bit of a comeback and just reduced the amount of Control Paladins that we've been seeing.
I mean, it's always very reactive, right? It's kind of what you see on ladder, and what you think you want to be countering is what you tend to see more of, and then that, for some people, translates into what the actual deck lineups look like.
Yeah.
So it's always very much evolving and changing.
Nick Chipper, usually a Hunter player, or historically a Hunter player. I know that Raven is a big fan of Nick Chipper. Always likes to see him play and see what he does with Hunter next. But actually going to be bringing the Paladin, I guess. I would expect Nick Chipper to be bringing a more aggressive Paladin.
That does seem to be his style. You know, I've talked to Raven a lot about Nick Chipper, and you know, we kind of have a little small thing like nice job, Nick Chipper, because you know he does play so much Hunter. But I would also expect, just based on his tendencies, this would be more an aggressive Paladin. See the Grimscale Chum, the Divine Favor, but I kind of wonder if that's something Nick Chipper can utilize to his advantage, right? That's something you leverage, that strength of reputation, into maybe throwing people a curveball. Okay. Looks like Zigantag is actually just rolling the Burn Mage.
Yep.
That's become so popular of late. And Nick Chipper, from what we can tell, again, we'll have to get further into the deck. Looks like he's just playing that standard mid-range Paladin.
Yep. Looks like it.
Curator, a pretty dead giveaway. Got to assume there's 2 Primordial Drakes in here. Maybe a Kodo, depending on how clever he's feeling.
Nick Chipper, someone that you've probably come across on the ladder at some point in the last 2 or 3 years, if you've been High Legend. Because that's where he is all of the time on the ladder. The few times that I've been kind of lurking in that area, I always bump into him without fail, because he's just always there.
And I assume he just beats you.
Yeah. No contest.
It happens.
I just concede as soon as I see his name because I'm scared.
It's all right. I ran into Hot Meowth on ladder, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get him. Hot Meowth is like 17. I'm 30. I got this. I did not got this.
Yeah.
It went poorly.
Not quite as easy as that. These young'uns.
I tell you.
Varfin Inquisitor looking like a pretty solid turn 1 play. Nick Chipper taking his time. Doesn't want to make it appear as though his hand is too, or his play is too obvious.
Yeah, certainly with the Rockpool Hunter follow-up, there's just really no question whatever that play was going to be. Now, for Austria, playing down the Mana Worm, worst case scenario is that a Rockpool Hunter follows it down, but the Rockpool Hunter doesn't give the Inquisitor enough power to just outright destroy the Mana Worm, so you can play it there fairly safely.
If this was a Murloc Tidecooler, then this Rockpool Hunter would just be brutal. It's one of those situations that you hate to see when you're on the other side. You put down a 1-3, and then this 3-3 comes back and trades into it. At least the Mana Worm survives now.
So Zigantique did get the Volcanic Potion early on. I think he had 2 in the mulligan.
He did, yeah.
Chose to just go ahead and keep 1. Volcanic Potion is extremely powerful in matchups like this one. Anything that has that early board game that you just need to deal with, it's kind of replaced, and in fact, it's not even really kind of, it just has replaced the Frost Nova Doomsayer. It's more consistent. There's no room for your opponent to really have that much counterplay.
And it's just 1 card, not 2.
Yep. And a lot of times you can just get by with the Volcanic Potion ping. It's incredibly powerful against these kinds of starts, Token Shaman, as well as, say, Aggro Druid.
Yeah. Not a hard decision there on that Discover at all for Zigantique. You take the 4-mana Meteor, I think, all day, every day. Unless there's anything that like is burn damage, unless there's a Pyroblast or something, Meteor has to be one of the best mage spells.
Well, and I think even if it was Pyroblast or just direct burn, Meteor makes a strong case anyway.
Yeah.
Because the way you can win this match is just to basically attrition your opponents out of resources.
Right. That is the Murloc Tidecooler. Just a couple turns too late, but still pretty strong here. Does die straight away to the Volcanic Potion.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty juicy Volcanic Potion if Austria wants it.
Yep. Can't see any reason that you wouldn't play it now. Only the Rockpool Hunter survives. What is going on with Zigantic's camera there?
I think we're actually going on an official camera tour.
Yeah, quick tour of his room during the Global Games. Why not?
This turned into a vlog. He's telling us about his life.
He knows we can't hear him, right?
Maybe.
Okay.
All right, didn't have the mana to fit in the ping, even with the coin. So 1 Murloc remains. Now, do you like Blessing of Kings here, or do you just like the Megasaur value?
We had this exact same situation earlier, or very similar anyway. I think I prefer the Blessing of Kings, but he's going to go with Megasaur. Do you prefer the Megasaur by any chance?
I prefer the Megasaur just because you're getting something on the board there.
Yeah.
The 5/4 body is also fairly relevant.
I like health here.
Yeah.
I guess Death Battle was okay too.
I like health against everything except 4-mana Meteor.
Well, actually, it does even take it out of range of that. Like, because you assume the Megasaur is the one that gets hit by the Meteor, and then this is going to end up with 4 health.
Yeah.
Fireball would have completely punished the Blessing of Kings last turn, though, so nicely played around that. And Polymorph is there, too. This is kind of uncomfortable for Zigantique here. We've lost our tour of his room as well. Very unfortunate.
Meanwhile, Nick Chipper looks to have a lovely breeze in his room.
He does.
See that drape just wafting?
He does. With how hot things have been in the UK recently, I wouldn't mind having a breeze myself.
Actually, I don't know what the weather is like in the Ukraine just this moment, but that does seem fairly scenic, that drape there. I like just fireballing here, the 5/4. And just kind of go from there. I don't want to just throw the Acolyte of Pain on the board and not do anything.
It's Fireball or Arcanologist, isn't it? Like, and
Yeah.
if you Arcanologist, you're probably pinging the Megasaur, hoping you can Meteor next turn. It's not.
But it does kind of make it obvious what your play is looking to be. All right, he just goes ahead and cycle the Acolyte there, and then coin out the Arcanologist.
Okay, sure. So you expect both of Nick Chipper's minions to trade, or for you to be able to trade into the next turn. Meteor definitely clears everything at that point.
Yeah, the Fireball would have gotten rid of the 5-4. Still a 2-4 on the board. You're not developing anything. Maybe it's unrealistic in this matchup from this point on to expect Acolyte to really get much value.
I mean, even playing on 5 with ping is something.
Well, yeah, but at that point, I mean, you have to constantly be vigilant of the amount of tempo you're investing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is still just a decision to go ahead and just cycle that Acolyte, which never feels great. The Acolyte is in there because you want to be drawing multiple cards.
Okay, it looks like it's Blessing of Kings' chance to come down on the Rockpool Hunter. It was always going to happen eventually. And everything going face. Meteor going to do its job here very nicely. There's Medivh.
Yeah, Nick Chipper, the aggro player, says, you know, I'm just going to go. And, you know, we saw earlier, it was in Singapore versus Malaysia. I want to say Malaysia, Gilgamesh never really put his foot on the gas and started forcing the mage to have answers. And so the mage was just over time able to have the removal to deal with everything.
Right.
And yeah, it was just very short game for the Paladin, so might be some merit to just jamming face there.
Acolyte, determined to get its value at some point, just hits the face for 1 damage. Rallying Blade might put a stop to that though. Nick Chipper has a hard turn ahead of him. Whether it's Rallying Blade hero power, or but whether he actually decides now is the time to develop the War Leader. If the War Leader survives, then thanks to the new hero power, it gets a lot of work done. Gonna go with it.
It's most power he can have on the board at the moment. Yeah, he could have put down the 1-1, but it probably just dies to ping, so it probably wasn't going to stick.
Well, this dies to the Frostbolt that's just been picked up off the top by Zig and Tag. Things looking really strong for him now, as he's just going to curve into turn 8 in a few turns' time.
Yeah, the Volcanic Potion just really big, and that is 100% why it's in the deck. It is to make you trade, you know, upwards of 4 cards for 1, and then possibly a ping on the follow-up turn.
Yeah.
So, yeah, now Nick Chipper just really struggling on resources. Luckily, he's going to go into the Curator turn. Going to draw some more resources there.
It's going to help a lot. Should get one of everything, I imagine. Well, at least a Beast and a Murloc. I imagine he runs at least 1 Primordial Drake.
Nope.
No.
Okay, so we actually see and the Grimscale Chum does tell us anyway that this is designed to be a faster version of the Murloc Paladin.
Yep. No good when you can't get the early game board presence. Yeah, you've put Austria down to 15 health, but there's an Ice Block in their hand. Sorry, 2 Ice Blocks in their hand. There's an Alex Straza to play later. I'm running out of ways that Ukraine win this game.
Well, Stonehill Defender might be a way to get back into it. If you get that big Tyrion,
yep.
If you get something juicy there, might be able to make it work.
Let's have a look. No, nothing juicy. Wicker Flame Burn Bristle's no good against this mage. It's only a 2-2.
I mean, Wicker Flame Burn Bristle is juicy, but it's like a small cup of juice.
Right.
And you need like a big like jug of juice.
You need a value juice here.
Yeah.
Not going to do it though. Now he's considering True Silver Champion, Hero Power, Hydrologist.
Yeah, I think it's just, at this point, you're just going wide on the board and basically making what you consider to be your last push.
There should still be a second Gentle Megasaur in the deck as well, which the Curator would have had a chance to pick up, but unfortunately it didn't.
I was trying to think if maybe Nick Chipper should have played the Hydrologist before hitting the Hero Power, but it might have been one of those situations where he knew out of all the secrets he could have possibly drawn, there was nothing he wanted to Getaway Coda, there's nothing he wants to Redemption, so probably just didn't matter.
Yeah, Getaway Coda is no good here because the 2 minions that have 1 health, obviously the mage can just ping it away. So as tempting as it would be to try and get the value of the Stonehill Defender, it's just no good.
I think I just like the Flame Strike here. Your health total is not high enough to where you can really get too cute, and I think if you could Firelands Portal and ping, the play is different. But I think because you can't, you haven't seen second Murloc War Leader yet, so if you just use the Firelands Portal on the Hydrologist, and then the War Leader comes down, you're suddenly facing down 7 damage on board.
Are you happy to use up the Flame Strike here? That's all.
No. I mean, I don't think you're happy. I think this is more okay, if I just turn the corner and really just end this last push, I probably feel like I'm okay.
Because my concern would be, what if in Nick Chipper's hand there was another Valfin Inquisitor and a Murloc War Leader? Imagine next turn just Hero Power, Frothing Inquisitor, Hero Power, Murloc War Leader.
Sure.
And then, oh, my Flame Strike's gone.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever super happy. I don't think that's what it's in there for.
There's the Megasaur. No good now, though. Oh, boy.
Might just be, yeah, I was going to say, see what you get off this. I mean, you can throw in the Burn Bristle if you want, just to put more power on the board. It's difficult to remove. And these are pretty lackluster, all things considered.
Divine Shield, well, it means that the minion survives against a ping.
I mean, that is good, but I think you were just looking for maybe a little more.
Yeah. Now there's a Medivh Valet to play along with the Firelands Portal at some point.
Yeah, now the Divine Shield is pretty big on both minions, though.
Yeah, Medivh the Guardian still has the same risks as you pointed out before, where there is still a lot of damage on the board. But then again, you have an Ice Block up. You have an Alexstrasza in hand. Do you care too much if Ukraine pops the block? Are you afraid of Eater of Secrets? I don't think so.
I don't think you're afraid of Eater of Secrets, as common as that card is starting to feel as a tech choice on ladder.
It's most commonly in mage decks, so...
Okay. A pretty bold call. Could choose to pop one of the Divine Shields if you wanted to, the one on Burn Bristle.
I was thinking that, but I don't think you want to use up the ATS charge.
Nah. One thing going for Austria here is Alexstrasza can just be the bounce back to
and Nick
heal
Chipper
up.
only has 14 damage available to him right now with the True Silver and the Consecration. And as you say, it doesn't even pop the block. Alexstrasza just put him back up to 15 again. Still got Ice Block develops on the board. Still have another one in hand.
So if there had been second Blessing of Kings and then another damage source, that would have popped the block.
Right.
Yeah.
But both Megasaurs gone, one Blessing of Kings used up. And even so, like Zigantide probably doesn't care if the Ice Block gets popped because he's still got the Alexstrasza.
Yeah, and second block.
They prefer it didn't, but
fair.
Actually, even if it did, then you could just play... He could just play Ice Block and Firelands Portal to get control of the board back, then play Alexstrasza the turn after, because he's got control of the board at that point.
Yeah, Nick Chipper figuring out exactly how he wants to space this out. He's going to play the old Tempo Kodo, it looks like. Equip the True Silver. Yeah. And then the Getaway Kodo, I actually like it here.
Yep. Mage can't just ping away the Murloc. Holding on to it, though. I wonder what he's hoping to... Looks like he's holding on to it. Yeah, what are he's hoping to actually hit with it?
I mean, there were a few targets. Yeah, I don't think the Hero Power minion, I don't think the 1/1 is going to be the first thing that dies, and I think you're just getting more resources while draining them of tempo, of resources. I think I like the Getaway Coda there because I think you feel like you're on your last push and you need access to all your resources. And from what we can tell, he's running a more aggressive version. So it's kind of like, what's the dream there? Maybe you get Tyrion, maybe you get Tarim. You have to get to him first.
Yeah, it looks like that's what he's hoping for. Tarim and Tyrion, as you say, good picks. Getting that back wouldn't have been so bad though when you think about it. There's a Lyra.
Wow, and a War Golem there. Yeah, getting that just a big old pile of stats off your Firelands Portal.
Yeah, no spells to
nice.
play, unfortunately. Now going to use the Atiyesh to get rid of Wicker Flame, setting himself to 1. But that's fine. He only needs 1 health.
As long as he clears the board, once he gets Alexstrasza back up, it's kind of soft GG.
Yeah.
If he doesn't necessarily even have the damage. What is he? I mean, he has a fair bit of damage on board.
Do you Alexstrasza next turn, or do you play Ice Block to start off a Lyra chain?
I mean, you might just play Alexstrasza to just win the game next turn.
Oh, Alexstrasza go for, yeah.
Yeah.
An offensive Alexstrasza. So locked into the idea of him playing it defensively, you're right.
When you stop trying to play the control game and just start playing the face game, it just all these plays come to you.
Do you like to play the face game, Rob?
I'm a big fan of the face game.
Yeah.
I try as much as possible since do cast to play a bunch of different decks, even though like really I'm still kind of stuck on Miracle Rogue. I just enjoy playing that one, but this morning I did. It's like you wake up, you do 2 miles around the lake. For me, that's just 20 games of Pirate, just hitting people in the face.
You're allowed to have your favorite deck. Don't worry. I like Miracle Rogue too.
And they became the best of friends.
Well, that's going to wrap this game up for Zigantide. Unfortunately, Nick Chipper not able to survive an Alexstrasza plus 20 damage.
Yeah. Turns out that is a lot of damage.
Even with some cute Murlocs on the board.
Could be posturing, though, that this is potentially eye for an eye.
Yep. Oh, good shout. There's me writing down in my notes that Zigantag's taken this away.
I mean, you could say he can test for it, so it's fine. He's going to see it's getaway Kodo, and then it's okay.
Okay.
But he had enough damage to where it was okay. But just a little. I mean, it was clear that Austria kind of paused, and they're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. I'll put my tick back now where I just written it. As Zigantag does take this. 2-1 to Austria. I said from the start I want to see Austria take this. They're going to take down Ukraine like they took down Russia. And they are more than halfway there.
Yeah, it's hard fought there. In this particular circumstance, the Paladin has not fared well against the Mage, largely due to inclusions like Volcanic Potion. It's exactly what the Mage wants, because you know early on that Paladin is really going to commit to the board if they have the minions. And Nick Chipper, unsurprisingly, playing the more aggressive variant. It wasn't full aggro. We didn't necessarily get to a Divine Favor. We didn't get to anything too crazy. No. But he did commit to that board early.
And he did have the Grimescale Charm as well, which is sort of the Volcanic Potion counters it. Like, that strategy beats that strategy.
Yeah. No, Bird Mage is really popular right now for a reason. It is extremely powerful against a number of decks. But let's go ahead and take a look at how the series is panning out thus far. As you said, Austria now up 2-1. It's going to come down to Johnny Stone versus Nyria. And Johnny Stone going to be on that Warrior, Nyria on the Mage. I would be absolutely flabbergasted if Nyria is not playing Bird Mage.
Right. Well, Warrior versus Mage is a matchup that I'm much more used to than a couple of the ones that we've seen today. Bird Mage does seem like the likely outcome. It's what we've seen all day today.
Nyria is very much an accomplished Freeze Mage player, and he's in that kind of elite class. You know, we were talking to Dr. Hippie last year for the Hearthstone Championship Tour. You know, he had that quote, you're either Freeze Mage or you're not. And Nyria is one of those players who qualifies for exclusive Freeze Mage status. So I would be surprised if he's not running, because Bird Mage is realistically right now just the better Freeze Mage.
Do they have like little get-togethers and drink cups of tea?
I mean,
Laughing, George C. and
yeah, I was gonna say Tom 60229. I would imagine, knowing all the players of the Freeze Mage club, it's probably like a fairly chill.
Tom 60229. I wouldn't remember that number. Well done.
We cast him a lot over in North America.
60229. Yep. I'll try and remember it now.
But yeah, it's a fairly elite club when you kind of get recognized as a Freeze Mage player by some of the best in the game. So it is cool to have that prestige. But given that Nyria does have that level of recognition as a Freeze Mage player, I think it's fair for him to just look at Burn Mage and be like, a lot of the times, the stuff I'm going to run into, Burn Mage just kind of plays like the better Freeze Mage right now.
And again, Volcanic Potions will be very strong against Pirate Warrior. If it's Taunt Warrior, there's this age-old question that we've been asking each other as casters every single week. Does the Warrior keep the quest versus Mystery Mage? Because we've been arguing, no, we think that the Warrior throws away the quest. But Vicious Fledgling.
Well, this is actually not a Mage. This is a Druid deck that Nyria has queued up.
Huh. Well, there you go. I was very confused for a second there. Burn Mage?
Nyria's like, curveball, Vicious Fledgling in my Mage deck.
Burn Mage? Yeah, hopefully we'll get that emblem on the screen changed in just a moment.
Okay, so this is a slightly different matchup here.
Slightly different? Yeah. It's going to be a very quick game. We know that much. The advantage that the Druid has is that it's got the potential to go wide on the board very often. And because it goes wide, it just can make better trades against the Warrior.
I really hope somebody clips that. It's like, yeah, he's a Freeze Mage player. He's Freeze Mage, and just clips over and over, Freeze Mage, and then it's, oh, it's Druid.
Yeah, just get rid of Power of the Wild.
Oh, Nyria gives the fist bump as he gets the Galaka Crawler, what he was searching for there.
Obviously expecting Johnny Stone to be bringing a Warrior, so yeah, going to be very happy once he sees that come down. Another Crab, not going to be as useful, but...
Yeah, this is one of the few decks where you can really run both of the Crabs, and because of Mark of Yasiraj, it's okay. Sometimes you use High Roll and just destroy people with basically the tech card, but even if you don't, Mark of Yasiraj offers some synergy and upside, and again, they're cheap minions. They play into what this deck wants to do.
No reason for Nyria to play the Galactic Crawler too soon. Yeah, sure, you can kill a Salty deckhand with it, or you could wait and get a Naga Corsair later on, actually get rid of 5/4. That seems more likely, or at least one of the mid-range pirate minions, like Bloodcell Cultist.
Now, one situation to be considerate of is, yeah, this deck is full of pirates, obviously. It's why you run it, but I actually like what he's doing here. the reality is if you don't necessarily have something that's super intuitive, just putting a 3/4 on the board on turn 1 and destroying a minion is actually incredibly powerful. Yeah, there's upside, and I think
there's the Naga Corsair, Rob. It just got picked up in Johnny Stone's
and he's going to play it on turn 4, which it's turn 2 now. Anyway, 3/4 on turn 1, get rid of a minion is just really powerful. And with Galactic Crawler, there's a real temptation to do exactly what you said, which is just like, no, but I can pay 2 mana to kill a 5/4.
Yeah.
But against a Pirate Warrior, it's always prudent to play more cautiously than you would against maybe other decks.
It baited out a Heroic Strike too, which is pretty good. I'm kind of surprised Johnny Stone didn't go with the Fiery War Axe and use that with patches to make the trade. Obviously values having the patches on the board.
Well, the rest of his hand right now is, until he gets that Naga Corsair, just weapon. So he feels like even if it's just 1 damage, he can either get consistent damage from the patches hit or at least bait out a hero power, which costs the Druid tempo.
Yeah. War Axe upgrade into Naga Corsair looks like a very good sequence of turns anyway. So he's sorted now for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Naria got a pretty tough choice to make though.
I don't know that it's necessarily that tough, to be honest. I think in this matchup particularly, Bloodsail Corsair is just going to sit in the hand for a while.
Yeah.
Like you realize it's like, okay, how do I lose this? And it's the weapon just hitting you. So it's one of those situations where removing a charge from a weapon is just so big in this matchup.
Right.
That I actually just think putting the most possible power on board is just the best, and that's exactly what he did.
Everything he's got trades very well with patches as well. Fiery War Axe can get rid of the Raven, but...
Yeah, we see Naira actually very confused that the axe did not come out before, kind of as you were talking about.
Yeah. Must have made the assumption that Johnny Stone didn't have it in his hand.
Sure.
Mark of the Lotus now picked up. Now I don't mind Bloodsail Corsair, Flame Elemental, Mark of the Lotus.
Yeah. You're not destroying the weapon, but you're getting more bodies on board. Yeah. And the reality is this is where things take a turn against the Pirate Warrior, because you're just going so wide, and then on the next turn you play your buff cards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, I thought he'd play Mark of the Lotus this turn, but you're right. This makes a lot of sense as well. Johnny Stone can probably only deal with one of these minions. Well, yep, he actually can only deal with one of these minions. You buff up everything else twice.
Yeah, and this is a weird point for the Warrior. You're not ever winning the board back. You have given up on that, so I'm curious if you just aim that face, because you have the Arcanite Reaper charges. You're basically hoping Savage Roar and buff cards are not there. It's highly unlikely that they're not there.
Right.
Ooh, 1 copy of Swipe. I like that. I don't see it all that much anymore. Swipe has largely been phased out, I feel like.
It wasn't even phased in for that long, was it? Like,
well, it was like
people were running 1 copy. But
I want to say the list I was always seeing was like Dwayna's, which had that 1 swipe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maria looking very happy about this, though he knows that it's super unlikely for Johnny Stone to have any way of coming back, and there we go. Yeah,
and I want to point out that I think the pace of this game was set by that Galactic Crawler early on. It destroyed a 2-1, forced a Heroic Strike to come out, so Johnny Stone didn't develop anything. So I definitely think when you're at home playing and you have the opportunity to Galactic Crawler like that, I definitely think it's going to pay dividends a lot of the time. But
sure, makes sense. I don't know. I like to be maybe a little bit too greedy with my Galactic Crawlers, but as we can see there, the amount of a tempo gain that Nyria got there, it just made the whole thing worthwhile.
Well, and to Nyria's confusion point, there was also a situation where Nyria was just like, why didn't we play the axe and then use the patches there? So things could have gone differently there, but the moral of the story is you force the Warrior to invest into killing the Galactic Crawler after the Galactic Crawler kills a minion.
We've been here before. I'm getting a sense of deja vu. It's the ace match. It's going to be a rogue mirror between Johnny Stone and Kalento. Hopefully no break this time. Rogues aren't breaking the game, but I still want to see Miracle.
That is interesting to me as I kind of look over the stats I've been keeping. Rogue going super late. I don't know. It's just interesting to me that we've seen now twice in a row where the Rogue has been the ace match class.
Yeah, it wasn't quite class number 9 for either of these players. I think Hunter was for Kalento and Paladin was I can't work out what what the ace class was for Austria.
So just for record, Ukraine played Rogue twice, and both times it was either the third deck or the second deck. So it's just interesting to me now that we're seeing Malaysia and Singapore do it as well, where Rogue is at 5th class. It's just maybe it's something a shift as a result of something going on in the meta.
There you go. Maybe maybe Warlock's not as bad as they used to be.
I hope Austria wins just because it'd be cool if Austria beat Russia and then Ukraine, but I'm actually more hoping Ukraine wins, just so we can interview Dr. Hippie about the Warlock.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah, I have a noble mission.
And we want to ask Kalento about the Priest as well. We want to kind of see if we can find out what was in
I'm
it.
more asking about the Warlock.
That's fair. Crest Rogue mirror match, as expected, as usual. Firefly looking like a pretty good start for Kalento here.
Yeah, gonna get rid of the Vanish. Firefly on turn 1 with no coin is just amazing.
And a bounce as well, ready to go on turn 2. If the Firefly sticks, Johnny Stone, Mimic Pod, is that worth keeping?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
So he throws away the deckhand for sure. Okay, and keeps the Ferryman. Sure, it makes sense to keep hold of the bounce. Okay, sure. Swashbuckler into bounce seems good too. Shadow Step as well. Okay, Johnny Stone's hand is looking marginally better, I think, than Kalento's.
Yeah, and certainly more so than in any other matchup. I think just seeing the opening hands really tells the story. Swashbuckler, again, as I mentioned, there is a slim chance you actually are able to find Shadow Step or Gadgets and Ferryman off of it. So I don't even necessarily mind that being the target of your bounces, even with the Novice Engineer. Pick up, it's cheaper on mana.
Yeah, the disadvantage is you are more likely to get another Shadow Step or another Gadgets and Ferryman or a Youthful Brewmaster by bouncing Novice Engineers. But I agree with you. Swashbuckler seems like it'd be just fine here. It's actually a tough call to make.
All right, and we see the Tar Creeper in hand. Wouldn't be surprised to see Tolvir Stone Shaper in this deck either.
Don't think it's as popular as it used to be, but it makes a lot of sense just curve-wise. Tar Creeper on 3, Tolvir Stone Shaper on 4.
You have the Flame Elemental, as well as the Firefly activated as well.
Johnny Stone spoiled for choice here. Swashbuckler or Novice Engineer, or he can wait and play
say coin out the Igneous, yeah.
Why wait? Just play it now, sure. He's actually, as soon as this Igneous Elemental dies, he's got everything he needs to complete the quest. And there's one on the other side, which means that Kalento also has everything he needs to complete the quest once the Igneous Elemental dies, because he can just bounce one of the Flame Elementals and play it again. This is going to be a turbo game, I think.
So Kalento knows now that if he plays down the Tar Creeper, Johnny Stone just trades into it.
Right.
Gets the Elementals, and then he kind of has to guesstimate what Austria has for resources. It's an interesting point right now, because there are a lot of situations where I think just playing the Tar Creeper is perfectly fine. I mean, you could develop your own Igneous Elemental as well.
Don't mind that, because that doesn't allow Johnny Stone to suicide his Igneous Elemental.
Yeah. You're basically saying, okay, you have to get your Igneous Elemental killed off over 2 turns.
Is there any merit to playing Youthful Brewmaster on the Firefly and then replaying it?
I don't think so. I think that just feels too slow. Yeah, like you've identified what your winning line is.
Yeah, it also kills the Igneous Elemental, so... Yep, I agree with this.
Vanish not a bad pickup. Would want to see with prep. Okay, so if you make the read that your line is just 110% Flame Elementals off the Igneous Elemental, maybe you feel okay to just play down Swashbuckler and Novice Engineer. That said, Swashbuckler does draw out that patches.
That's a problem.
So you are losing access to basically a 5 damage charge later.
So you start with the Novice Engineer and see what you get, I guess. Where are you putting that Igneous Elemental? I think you're trading it into one of the 1/2s, because that way it doesn't damage Kalento's Igneous Elemental, but it also sets you up to suicide your Igneous Elemental next turn.
All right, just goes ahead with the dagger. I don't dislike the dagger here, just getting it developed. The Novice Engineer didn't necessarily feel super sexy. I mean, it's a gnome. Come on.
Sure, I'll leave you that. I'll leave you with that one. Tar Creeper seems fine now because the Igneous Elemental is going to get destroyed anyway. Might as well put a bigger minion on the board, and Stone does board just to go face. Is that what's going on here? Wow, just trying to pressure Johnny Stone, Kalento. Wouldn't have expected that.
Okay, so Johnny Stone could just play down the Flame Elemental, or both of them, Shadow Step 1, Gadgets and Ferryman, and then he has his quest done. Both Flame Elementals stay on the board and then just get picked off.
Well, you want to complete this quest as fast as possible.
I mean, that might just be the consideration point, is you say, okay, we're doing it.
Just playing both, bounce one back with the Ferryman. Next turn, you can play it. Yeah. Bounce. No, next turn you can't quite complete the quest. You'll be 1 mana off. That is frustrating. Because you have to play the 1-mana one as well as the 0-mana one.
Yep.
So Johnny Stone really needs to pick up a preparation. He could get one from Swashbuckler, actually.
Yeah, Kalento realizes the quest about to be done, and now has to decide, how does he approach this? He does not have the ability. Well, he does actually with the...
He can do it just as quickly, right? He
Yeah.
can play both Flame Elementals,
just thinking.
bounce it back, play it again. He can complete it this turn, he just can't activate it. And actually, setting this up and putting...
And his board is so wide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Putting a board down that's this wide just seems very solid. Even playing carefully there, healing up the damaged Flame Elemental. Johnny Stone.
Really... I was going to say hurting for a prep, but even if you got the prep.
Prep Vanish would be the play then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but yeah.
Well, that's just going to be the game.
Yeah.
What could he get something from Swashbuckler? Swashbuckler, Prep Vanish. It's the only way he survives. Actually, that's not bad either. You play Swashbuckler, Prep Vanish. You can then play the Flame Elementals and then complete your quest next turn.
You could also Novice Engineer into prep, and then you play 1 Elemental.
You won't quite have the mana to. Novice Engineer, Prep, Vanish. That'd be 5 mana. Oh yeah, you can play the cheap one. Sure, sure. Of course, one of them costs 0. Yeah, you're right. The Novice
And
Engineer
I think you have the better, you have the better odds getting the prep.
That's not it though. Let's find out if Swashbuckler would have done it. Nope.
Head crack. It's 2014. But yeah, that is going to do it for
Yeah, that is not a good card, is it?
No. This is more than enough damage on the board. Can't get through the Tar Creeper. No backstabs. We saw those earlier from the Southeast Asian countries, but...
Going as wide as he can, but there's no way he can survive this onslaught of damage. There's the prep, just for good measure, so that Deckhand and Patches can come out as well from Kalento.
Trystone just gave the slightest shake of his head, like that could have been me.
I'm disappointed. Austria came very close to winning against another one of the best teams in Hearthstone.
No, it was a good series.
But
nothing to be disappointed about. Come on, Dr. Hippie interview.
Right, right. We'll just make a quest there to production. We'd like to speak about the Warlock, please.
We will not accept anyone else for interview. I want to talk to Dr. Hippie. Yeah. But jokes aside, that was a really close series. That's now 2 series we've had today that have just come down to the Quest Rogue Mirror.
Yeah.
And like honestly, it's kind of a dissatisfying way to see the series end. You know, we've seen some matchups where they go long. There's just a lot of thought into how you play things. There's some head games, and then this is just kind of more like, well, finish my quest.
Well,
on the board.
There's a lot of thinking that goes into the matchup though, and Kalento played that exceptionally well. Even dropping the Stone Tusk Boar on that turn, just to sink a little bit more damage in, just to put something else on the board. It worked out so nicely for him.
Yeah.
We're just about to take one last look at the series that we just watched. I can hear the sounds of it happening, but I don't think it's quite popping up on the screen there. But ultimately, as we've just been saying, Kalento, Team Ukraine, won the ace match. There we go. Oh, it's gone. with the Rogue and the Quest Rogue.
We're being debated really hard.
Wife Coach won game number 1 with her Paladin. Kalento won game number 2 with his Priest. Nick Chipper won game number 3. Nyria won game... Is that... So sorry, Zygentyg won game number 3. Nick Chipper, Nyria won game number 4. Let's just use the graphic.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out that yes, Kalento did play that Quest Rogue game very well. I guess what I'm saying is, like, when you think about that game 5, you really want it to come down to like the Haymaker game, where it's like, you know, something like Zomph beating the Jade Druid with the
Haymaker game, sure.
the Warrior. Yeah, that's all.
I mean, that was an incredible game to watch.
Yeah.
I can't recommend, if you want to learn how to play the N'Zoth Paladin, can't recommend that more. Like, just go watch Zomph.
Yeah.
That man knows what he's doing.
But I don't think for Austria here, let's go ahead and take a look at their groups. I had them written down here. The groups for Austria, I don't necessarily think this is super terrible for them as I go through. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so for Group E, it's Ukraine, Greece, Austria, and Peru. So still a lot of daylight for Ukraine. Now, Greece did manage to turn it around in the second half of Stage 1. Peru kind of had that miracle run. So,
Right, well, we'll come back to the groups in just a moment, but we are going to have an interview with one of the players, not sure who. Hey, Noria, how's it going? Congratulations on beating Austria. Just another day in the office for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty easy. Kappa.
Okay, I got to know. Why did Dr. Hippie play Warlock? What was the thought behind that?
It actually, I don't want to reveal strats, but we drew really bad with Warlock.
Yeah, that was definitely a bad draw.
It was like worst possible combination of draws except Doomsayer 2. So I don't want to reveal anything else about it.
So you're just going to leave us one.
No, it's fine. This is fine. It is a serious strat. We just made sure Dr. Hippie wasn't just messing with us. That's fine. That's an answer.
Right, yeah. Sure.
Strats.
Noria, have things changed for your team and your teamwork now that you've entered stage 2 of the competition? Or is it pretty much the same type of thing that you were doing during stage 1?
I don't think anything changed. We worked the same way as we worked from like week 1 even. When we established like how we communicate in a way.
Right.
And since we have really good players in the team, we don't really have much discussion about the plays. We come up with them like really fast. So that's why we didn't have any rope issues.
Sure. So would you say your communication has improved over time, or did you just have it cracked since day 1?
I think we have it since day 1. And also, players in our team are not loud, maybe except Nick Chipper. But Kalento and Hippie are really calm, and they talk when they should talk, so they know how to do it, and me too.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much for your time, Noria. Congratulations for your win. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
I just love the confidence there. Team Ukraine, they know they've got it, right? They know they're
But it's a quiet confidence, right? It's not it's not, you know, we've seen for some of the other countries, people get on Twitter or they're streaming and they kind of pop off. There's just a very quiet confidence. We see here in game 1 now, Dr. Hippie's Warlock deck is apparently a legit strat.
I'm going to be wondering about this for the rest of today now. Like, what were the correct sequence of draws?
Yeah, we didn't get to see all that much of the deck. The Paladin from Life Coach just went pretty hard in the paint and...
Yeah, just didn't happen. Whether there's a consistency issue there or just sheer bad luck, as Noria said, we're not going to find out for a little while. But next up, Kalento with the Miracle Priest. That did its job.
Yeah, it would certainly, we were kind of evaluating that one on the fly, as has kind of been the case, I think, in HGG for all Miracle Priests. We had to kind of figure out exactly what it's doing and what the specific cards are. But yeah, we saw that Lyra just survive for a few turns, draw a bunch of cards, and ended up just outvaluing the Shaman, who eventually just ended up with a really poor hand of Bloodlusts, essentially.
Yeah, was never quite able to get the board big enough to do it. This board almost looks ideal, even playing around the Emerald Hive Queen perfectly, but Shadow Word Horror, exactly what Kalento needed to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, generated so many resources off the Lyra that, you know, eventually you were going to get something like a Dragonfire Potion, would have done the same thing, Shadow Word Horror. And then we saw the Mage game from Austria. And this is the second time today that the mid-range Paladin has struggled against the Mage, and that's not surprising. Again, it's kind of by design that the Mage is targeting decks like that, decks that really want to get early in on the board, invest a lot of resources, and then just kind of get blown out by the Volcanic Potion.
Right. Now, Alex Straza coming in with a very aggressive, very fast win here. Mage down to 1 health, still had an Ice Block in hand, still had the defensive Alex Straza if Sigantag needed it, but nope, just winning the game is actually a better play.
All right, we saw here just the Quest Rogue we had just seen in the match before, and this is pretty straightforward. Both players on the Igneous Elemental plan. Kalento was able to get it first after building a wide board, and it's, you know, it's a low-key part of Quest Rogue that if you play a few games of it, you realize it's kind of essential sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just getting the board state correct first.
Quite close again, really. It doesn't look like it because Kalento was still on full health, but his opponent was just about to complete the quest.
Just didn't have the wide board, though.
Right, yeah, there was that. So that's that series done. Let's take one last look at Group E. Sum up what Rob was saying earlier. There you go. Peru and Greece, the other two teams.
I think this is going to be a fun group. Peru came into this going 6-0 in their last 2 series. Again, they needed an exact score of 6-0 to win out over Romania for that final spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if they can carry that momentum. Nandieb said that both of them were, or not both of them, but the whole team was really working on a different gear now. So I really want to see more success from LATAM.
What team lost to Peru? 0-3.
We did. We both did.
Right. We are going to go to a break now, but don't go anywhere. One game left today. It's going to be my pick, Italy versus Bulgaria. We'll be right back.
We're almost there. Quiet down, everyone. This is not like any of our previous expeditions. This will be far more ambitious. We're stepping into a land of primordial wonder. Infused with astonishing elemental energies. The plant life here holds very unusual properties. So don't touch anything. And while you may be excited to see the local fauna, you might want to make sure they don't see you. Because their powers of adaptation are devastating. Make no mistake, we will be tested at every turn. But if we stay on our guard, we might just survive. Now then, are you ready? Then let's journey into Ongoro Crater.